Do you want to learn how to use trend lines on the charts? Well, in this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to master trend lines. And learning how to master using trend lines is very important as a Forex trader. So if you're looking to learn, smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. And without any further ado, let's get on with it. Everything you need to know about trend lines. What is a trend line? Trend lines are lines that traders draw on charts to connect price movement together to show the trend of a currency pair. The resulting line is then used to give the trader a good idea of the direction in which a currency pair might move. In simple terms, trend equals bullish or bearish trend, line equals shape tool used to outline the trend. So as you can see, we have a trend line right here, right? Two lines and prices in between these two red lines. And this is what we mean, a bullish trend with a shape tool, outlining the trend. What is a trend line breakout? A trend line breakout is when price is within a trend line and it breaks out of that trend line. Now, as you can see, price is within that trend line, then it decides to break that trend line. And this is when it decides to break, and that's what we call a trend line breakout. Alright, so I have an offer for you. I've partnered up with FOREX, and FOREX is the broker that I recommend. They are offering a 50% deposit bonus. That means if you deposit $10,000, for example, you can trade with $15,000. Whatever you deposit, they will put 50% on top. And not only that, if you deposit with FOREX using the link below, I'm also going to give you free lifetime access to my entire Forex Mastery course. So links will be down below. Once you sign up and deposit, message me on Instagram, Telegram, or email, and my team will give you free lifetime access to my course. What is a trendline retest? A trendline retest is when price breaks out of a trend line and bounces back before continuing towards the direction of the breakout. So it's very simple. Price is within the trend line and then it decides to break and goes up a little and comes back down, retesting on that line before heading towards the direction of the breakout, which is bullish, going towards the upside. So this is what a trendline retest means. Now, trendline rules. Rule number 1, to use a trendline, there first needs to be a trend. Whether it's a bullish trend or a bearish trend, it doesn't matter. If you're looking to use a trend line and price is moving sideways or consolidating, that's what we call it. When price is moving sideways, it's also known or referred to as consolidation, then you're wasting your time. There needs to be a trend, bullish trend or a bearish trend. I've been trading for several years and I can tell you right now, if there's no trend, I don't know how to use a trend line correctly. Okay, so don't insist on using a trend line without a trend. Rule number 2, there needs to be a minimum of 2 touches to create a trend line. Now, what I mean by 2 touches is that price needs to touch the trend line twice for that trend line to be an active trend line. If you only have 1 touch, then you have nothing. I will go over this later on, so stay tuned. Rule number 3, it's 3 or 4, otherwise it's more. A trend line usually breaks out on the 3rd or 4th touch. If it doesn't break out on the 3rd or 4th touch, then it will likely continue on for a while until price decides to break. This information shouldn't be used to buy or sell when a trend line breaks out, but rather for analysis purposes only. There are trend lines that take months or even years to break, so be careful. So yeah, the reason why I'm saying that is because some of you guys might be like, hey, okay, so I'm going to wait for the 3rd or 4th touch. When it breaks, I'll sell. Or some of you guys might sell just before the 3rd touch. Do not try doing any of that. So yeah, just use this for analysis purposes only. Rule number 4, one touch and it could reverse. Understand, when price makes a touch on the top or bottom trend line, it could reverse to the other side. So if price touches the top trend line, it could now start to head down and touch the bottom one, or vice versa. This is for analysis purposes only and for you to be aware. Rule number 5, always use the median method. When you're drawing trend lines, you need to plot in a way that makes sense. Only using wicks or only using bodies to plot a trend line isn't very efficient. When you use the median method, you plot trend lines using wicks and bodies. The aim is to use both and plot very clear trend lines. So yeah, I will explain the application of these rules, so just stick around and you will learn how to apply these rules. How to draw a trend line correctly. Step number 1, identify the market trend. Is price bullish or bearish? So let's go to MetaTrader 4 and follow these steps. So as you can see, in this case, price is bullish. Step number 2, identify a minimum of 2 touches. So this is the first touch that I'm planning to start the trend line from. So if we use this angle, I think somewhere around here we could have 2 or 3 touches. So yeah, this could be a valid trend line opportunity. Step number 3, plot lines using the median method. So I start from the bottom wick and see if this could work out. So yeah, I could use the bottom of these wicks. So we have 3 wick touches. So if I drop it like that, we have 1, 2, 3. That could work, or we could use the bottom of the bodies or something like that. Let's see. I know the wick is going below this trend line, but if you look, the body is just bouncing above the trend line, and we have a wick touch here, a wick touch there, and a wick rejection there. So either ways, in this example, it works, but personally, I would go for the body. Yeah, personally, what I would recommend, by using the median method, look for the most respected in terms of body and wicks. So that would be my trend line. Yes, the wick goes below, but what I'm looking at is the overall. I'm looking at this wick here, respecting that line. I am looking at these bodies, right? I'm looking at this wick here. I am not just going to make it look pretty, right? The median method is using body and wicks. Which one do I prefer? Body, but I use both. Okay, now let's draw the top trend line. So in this case, where am I going to draw it? I would use the wicks, the top of the wicks, follow this wick here and draw along and see where it takes us. And this is what I mean by always have 2 touches as a minimum. When you have 2 touches, this will be your support to carry on further, right? So look, I can use this and just follow along, see where it takes me. And as you can see, 1, 2, and 3, right? When I mentioned earlier, have a minimum of 2 touches, this is what I mean. When you have a minimum of 2 trend line touches, the second trend line touch helps you find the 3rd and 4th and 5th or whatever, right? So without 2 touches as a minimum, there could not be a trend line opportunity. So yeah, we have, a very good trend line, the top of the wick and, the body and all of that. Okay, so this is very good. This is how I draw trend lines, and just practice. The more you practice drawing trend lines, the more likely you are to draw very good ones, right? So let's just do quick trend lines. Let's practice some more. As you can see, we have another trend line. It's a mini one. Price was coming up, respected the top, came back down, respected multiple times, and then it broke and carried on, right? We can keep doing this. There we go. We have another trend line. I chose the top of the wick. Now, I did not choose this top of the wick. If I zoom in, let me show you. I did not choose to follow along that wick because it didn't make sense. I chose this wick right here, and that led me to this top wick. So you have to, this is what I mean by the median method. You're using the body or wicks, whatever you need to use to make sure you have a very clear trend line. If I used this top wick right here, look at where it would have taken me, right? Nowhere. So this is what I mean by the median method. Using the top of the wicks or the top of the body, whatever it is, to have clear trend lines. Now, the bottom trend line, let's zoom out. As you can see, we have the bottom of the body following along the wick and the body and the wick, and then finally a break and just a retest, multiple retests before going down. Okay, I'm going to do one more. So yeah, this is my trend line, the bearish trend line. We have the top of the body, we have wicks, and a break retest before price heading further. Now, you might be wondering, the bottom trend line has, broken multiple times. So why did I, draw this trend line? Well, it's very simple. The median method. Your aim when using the median method is to draw a trend line that's very clear and that makes sense. I'm using the bottom of the body to begin with. Moving along, I'm using the average line in which price consistently respects. That's what I'm looking for. Over time, which line is price respecting the most, right? And it's about finding that median that helps you when, doing analysis. So bottom of the body, we have several bodies, respecting that zone. Yes, there's a break, but it quickly comes back in and it, follows that trend line before breaking it again. And then it's back in that trend line, right? And then folds back down, respects that trend line, and then breaks above. This is what I mean. Don't be scared to draw trend lines that have, a fake breakout. As long as it's in that trend line actively, right? For example, if price was over here, let's say right here, it would still be active. When this trend line would be invalid is when it's out of, when it's broken out. Then it's out of, it's invalid. It's, out of the game now. We're not going to use this trend line anymore. We're not going to consider it because now we're moving on, right? As long as price is within a trend line, it remains active. So I hope you guys learned something from this episode, and I'll see you on my next episode.